Brother Sewing and Crafting family. I'm Brother Brand Ambassador Angela Wolf, and we are at your side virtually. Welcome to the party. Today we are streaming live on Brother Sews and Brother Crafting Facebook and YouTube pages. And wait till you see what we have for you today. The fabulous Jerry Granata is here, and he has one of the coolest projects. It's easy to do. We even have instructions that you can go back and print off. Jerry went all out. And I cannot wait till you see this. So, Jerry, I have to say, though, I was just cracking up at you dancing at that ad.
Yeah. Well, you hear music, it gets you going. You got to do it. You got to get moving.
He's out there. I'm like, Jerry, stop.
Oh, yeah. Life should be fun, right? Life's got to be fun.
Life has got to be fun. Well, everybody is rolling in. By the way, if you've never been here before, say where you're from. We'd love to see people from all over the country joining us. And we know you have a lot you could be doing right now, and we really appreciate you watching us. So, Jerry, I love your project for the day. This is, again, the theme of quick and easy projects, and you hit it right spot on.
Well, it's quick and it's easy, so I hit both of those. What I'm making today, it's going to be a combination pincushion and thread catcher. And this is one of those projects that looks more complicated than it really is. There's only 4 fabrics in this whole thing. And then some other little notions and accents, but really that's it. It's really simple. It's a great gift. If you need to throw something together quick to make a gift, this is awesome. And I've got a lot of tips and tricks for it too.
4 fabrics, we can handle that.
Yeah.
Can't we? You all have 4 fabrics in your stash, right? All right, so show us a preview of what you're going to be teaching us today, because these are so cute.
All right, so this is kind of the preview. It's a pincushion on the top. Now this will sit on your desk. My hand is representing your desk. There's a hinge section, and then there's the thread catcher section that has an interior. It's lined. It's like a finished interior and exterior. Now you can use 4 different fabrics. You can use 4 of the same fabrics. It's completely up to you. This is a great way to stash bust. This is a great way to use up those fat quarters that you love and you just don't know what to do with. I'm going to give you the dimensions, and like Angela said, there's also instructions and supply lists for you to print out, so you'll have exactly what's going on. So here's another one. This is sort of a 30s theme.
Oh, I love that.
Has some embroidery on it. Now I'm working on the XP1 today. You can work on the XP2. This can be done on the Stellaire. This can be done on, if you don't want to do any embroidery, this can be done just on your regular sewing machine. So it's so versatile and it's so forgiving. So even if you're not a real confident stitcher, this is a great project because a lot of the seams get hidden. So you don't have to worry about having like perfect points and things like that. So of course, in my world, I work with unusual fabrics a lot. So here's one that's a little bit more kind of rich. These are upholstery fabrics. So this is upholstery fabric on the outside. It's upholstery fabric on the inside. This is a metallic fabric for the hinge. And this is velvet for the pincushion. So again, it just sits on your desk. And this has crushed English walnuts in there. And I'm going to show you where you can get these. It's going to be a surprise. You're not going to guess probably, but a very good resource. But it's got some weight to it. So it just sits by your machine, hangs over the edge. And it's a great place to catch your thread or any little like fabric-y things or things like that you've cut off.
Jerry, those are really cool. So I'd love to hear from all of you watching as he sews. What's your favorite one? The first one, the second one with embroidery, number 2, or number 3, the super rich, classy one. I'm voting number 3 is my favorite. I love them all, but number 3, I just love the richness of the inside of that one. So leave a comment, 1, 2, or 3, or them all.
Yeah. And well, the great thing about the one with upholstery fabric is there's not a lot of bulk to it. So you don't have to worry about like 10, 12 different layers of fabrics going together. There's only a couple layers that you're working with at a time. So even if you use a thicker, bulky fabric, this will work great because there's just not a lot of bulk to it.
Mm-hmm. That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
All right, so just so you all know, I will leave a link for you. I actually filled out the blog post this morning. I'll bring it up just real quick so you can see it. And you'll be able to go here and print everything off. So I'll bring that up when he's finished. But for the meantime, we're just going to walk through everything because we don't want you to leave and come back. And then at the end, I'll give you the link where you can go print this off and you can watch the replay to sew along. So, Jerry, take it away.
I'm excited. I can't wait to show you this. Okay, let me switch my camera over here. We're going to head over to the machine. I'm not showing you a full machine picture because the great thing about this is I'm not doing anything fancy. So, I'm just choosing a straight stitch, and off we go. So again, if you have any questions, Angela, feel free to just jump in and ask me. It's not gonna throw me off. But if anybody has
Okay.
questions, just jump right in. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep plowing through. So what you're going to need a sewing machine. You could you do this by hand? Absolutely, if you wanted to. If you are a very comfortable hand stitcher, by all means do this. But I use the XP1 with the upgrade, so it's an XP2. You could do you could use the Stellaire if you wanted to do either the XJ1 for sewing. If you didn't want to use embroidery, you could just sew this. So, and that's what I'm going to do today, just for sake of time. I'm going to kind of walk you through how to do the embroidery, kind of. And I'm going to give you the dimensions, but again, the instructions are there, and this will be recorded, so you can go back. So don't feel like you have to write all this down. And what were those dimensions again? So they're all there for you. So all you're going to need, as I teased you at the beginning, are 4 different fabrics, and these are the fabrics that I'm using. So you're going to have an outer bag section, which will be right up here. This is going to be 9 by 16. Now, if you are going to do embroidery, I highly suggest you cut this to 10 by 17. And again, these dimensions are all in the instructions, to 10 by 17, because as you know, with embroidery, once you do embroidery, it will kind of shrink up a little bit. It will take up some room in your fabric. So if you cut it a little bit larger, then once that embroidery shrinks up, then you cut it to 9 by 16. So just save yourself some room, so that as that embroidery shrinks up your fabric, your dimensions will be correct. Now you're going to also need a lining fabric, which is the white piece here. This is going to be also 9 by 16. So the outer bag and the inner bag section are the same size eventually. So again, if you're doing embroidery, just cut it to 9 by 16. Then you're going to take this is going to be the pin cushion section, which is 8 by 7, 8 inches by 7. And I've done a little prep work on that for you. Also, then you're going to need the hinge section, and that is simply 4.5 by 8. So that's it. So I'm going to pull these out so we can get started here. And I have some step outs for you so you can see what this looks like once it's all completed. So once you're done, again, you're going to have your embroidery finished. If you're going to do embroidery, you don't have to. Now, if you remember on my other bag, I'll just kind of pull it up here real quick. I just have you look at the fabric. This is pretty busy. I love it too. This is one of my favorites. These were curtains and pillows in my house at one time. But I love the fabric. It's very modern. But you'll notice it's pretty busy. And if you put embroidery on it, sure you can. You can put embroidery on there. But I just didn't want to take away from the feel of that fabric. So I decided not to do embroidery. So just kind of look at your fabric, see what you have. Again, this is perfect. So if you follow the dimensions, this is great. If you have all this, we have those. I have them too. I have fat quarters that I fall in love with. I'm like, oh, this is great. And then a year later, you're going, what was I thinking? I have all these fat quarters. I don't know what to do with them. Perfect. Get them out. Use them on this project. Okay, so all I'm doing is just basic straight sewing here. So my machine is set for, now in my brother machine, it's set for 1/4 inch. So that would be my category Q and stitch 02. That's my piecing stitch. Now what that means, for those of you who may not have a brother, is the needle here is going to pop over to the right, and I'm going to use the right edge of my presser foot to guide my fabric. So it's already set for a perfect 1/4 inch, so I don't have to change it out. You could use a 1/4 inch foot if you like, however you're comfortable. But some people may not have the 1/4 inch foot. So just use your regular sewing foot, pop that needle over to the Q-02, and that will give you all of the 1/4 inch that you need. And that's it. You only need a 1/4 inch seam. And again, for those of you who may be math challenged, as I am, there aren't a lot of measurements here either, as far as like seams and things that you have to do. So there's not a whole lot to remember. So let's jump in. So the first thing you're going to do, and I'm rethinking this, I probably should not have used a white on white here, but I apologize, but just kind of grab some things in my stash. This is my hinge piece. So again, this is a 4.5 by 8. And this is one of those white on white tone or tone on tone. You've probably seen them, cream on cream. Just as a little tip, I do a lot of hand dyeing. If you have these tone on tones where it's kind of I don't know, it's not really plastic, but it's sort of a screen printed pattern on top of the fabric. If you hand dye these, the dye will not penetrate the screen printing, so it leaves the design. So you get the colored background, but it leaves the design. So you get, excuse me, you get kind of a twofer on that. You get a bonus. So if you are into hand dyeing, try hand dyeing some of your tone on tone fabrics, and it's really cool because all of a sudden all these designs, printed designs, will pop out. So there, tip, use that free. I don't charge for that. So all right. So let's use the hinge piece. And we're going to do this right sides together. Now, some of these tone on tones are a little hard to see, but we're going to take these and do this right sides together. Sorry that it's white on white here. I probably should have rethought that. But and I know a lot of you are going to ask about my pin cushion here. This is just something I picked up on Amazon. It's magnetic, so I can just throw my pins there. A lot of manufacturers make these, so I don't really have a manufacturer for you. Just do like magnetic wrist pin cushion. Do a search.
Actually, like I was going to say, I'm watching the feed for everybody talking. They're more interested in your magnetic pin watch is what they're calling it. And by the way, no affiliation to Brother. So just do a internet search. But I love that. I love that.
We don't care about your project, Jerry. It's all about your pin cushion. I see how this works. I see how you people are. Come on, Wolfpack, back me up here. Okay. All right. So this is, I love this thing. It's awesome. It's not a watch. It's not like a phone watch where you can just throw the magnetic pins on there. I wish it was. That would be like real double duty. Wouldn't that be cool? Hey, so if any of you invent a magnetic thing for your watch, for your phone watch, let me know. I want in on that. That's going to be a big stuff. All right, so I folded my fabric right sides together, and I'm just going to throw a couple pins in here. You could use clips. You could use maybe a little bit of glue in the seam section, whichever you're comfortable with here. I'm just going to do this real quick. Again, this is just a quick little sample, so I'm not going to go fancy. Now, what you're going to do to sew, and again, this is all in the instructions. I'll hold it up so it's a little easier to see. What you're going to do is you need to leave an opening here. So I'm going to sew on the right side up, pivot, and come in about 3/4 of an inch or so, or whatever. There's no big deal with these. It's so forgiving. However wide of an opening you want, there. In the instructions, I believe it says 2-inch opening for turning, but again, it's up to you. There's no real hard fast rules to this. Then you're going to sew up the other side, pivot, and come over, and you're going to leave that opening. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to flip this around. I'm going to go this way. I'm one of those people. I sew over pins. I know that's bad. But I do it. I won't do it now. I'll do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing.
you want to just let the internet blow up today, don't you?
I know. I'm going to have all the texts sending me all sorts of nasty emails and nasty messages. Now, I do want to say that I'm going to give you a little tip here. I know this is hard to see. Once I'm done sewing, I will pull my presser foot off so you could see it. But there is a metallic section, a little metallic bar right in front of the needle, and there's a big plastic section here. If you allow the raw edge of your fabric here to go just before that little metal piece, that's 1/4 of an inch. So that gives you sort of an indicator as to when to pivot, because sometimes it's hard for us to know. So I've allowed the raw edge to just kind of touch that metal bar, and I'm going to pivot, and now I have my 1/4 of an inch. So again, I'll show you that. I'm going to backstitch just a little bit because I'm going to be turning here. Also, what's great about this project, all these little threads, you could just leave them. You don't have to cut them off. Why? Because they're going to be buried in your project. So it doesn't really matter. So that's why I say this is great. This is really forgiving. It's very fast to do. I will take out my pins. Get my hand out of the way here. Now again, the raw edge is going to just kind of come up just to the front of that metal bar, pivot, and there's my 1/4 of an inch. And that's it. Simple as that. And there we go. Now I am using a black thread just so you can see it. You'll probably want to use a matching thread. But if you want to use a high contrast thread with your project, that's your business. If you want to do that, by all means, go ahead. But most people are going to want to kind of blend that in. Now, all I'm going to do is take this, and I'm going to flip this right side out. I'm going to just turn this inside out, kind of poke my little points out there with my finger, and I have a cool little tool I'm not going to mention the manufacturer, but again, you can do a search for, metal point turner or steel ball point turner. These are available by many manufacturers. This one has a thicker, I'll bring it a little closer, a thicker metal ball on this end and a thinner metal ball on this end. This is awesome for those of you who do collars or a lot of things to pull out the points because it's not a sharp object, so it's not going to poke through that corner. I am guilty, as I'm sure many of you are, of using a scissors or just grabbing something quick, and all of a sudden the tip of your scissors is going through your collar, and you're crying very hard because you've now ruined your collar and you got to make another one. So as you can see, all I've done is just kind of poke those corners out. And this raw edge, you don't have to close this opening here. So all you have to do is just pull this together, just kind of roll them in, give that a press, and that's it. You're going to leave this open. Why? Because this whole thing is going to be embedded into a seam. So you don't even if your points are perfect, it doesn't matter because you're going to sew down a 1/2 inch eventually and cover all of that. Same with this end. You're going to come down about a 1/2 inch and sew that. So this is where I say this is really forgiving. So you're going to give this a quick press, and I have one all ready for you. This is all pressed and ready to go. Again, there's the opening. I'm not going to stitch that closed because I don't have to. So I'm going to set this aside for now. And now I'm going to work on the pincushion section. Now this is kind of a cool little magical thing here, how this works. So I'm going to pull up my section for the pincushion, and all I've done on this edge here is I have turned in 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to use my old school. How many people are old school? I love doing old school things. I use when I design quilts, I use pencil, paper, erasers. I use one of these old like sewing and knitting gauges. I love these things.
I was thinking, how old do you have to be? I don't even leave home without that, Jerry.
I know. I'm telling you, love everywhere. This thing. Love it, love it, love it. If you've never seen one, this is adjustable. This little section moves so that you can get a perfect gauge for whatever it is you're doing. Now I'm going to set this for 3/8 of an inch. And I'll go over to my iron and I'm going to place this and fold it in 3/8 of an inch and give that a press. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch seam right down. So that gives me a nice finish here. There we go. So this is the raw edge here. So this is the side I folded over, and then here's my nice clean finished edge with my 1/4 of an inch on it. So you're going to take this section, after you've done that, you're going to have it right side up. So you need to see this. So this is my finished edge. This is my finished seam. And now watch this. So I'm going to take here's my little hinge section, right, with the opening. Now make sure that the opening side you're going to lay it down on the right side of your pincushion section, and you're going, what is he doing? This is the most bizarre thing I've seen. So let me turn it this way so you can see it. So there's my top finished section. Here is the raw edge open of my hinge section, and I'm putting that finished section right along the raw edge here. Now again, this is forgiving, and I'll show it to you this way. You want to center this so that the edge of the hinge is even with the stitching, not the finished edge, the stitching. And then this side, the finished edge, I'm going to get my finger out of the way here. You're going to use the finished side here. So it's going to be equidistant on each side. So this side, you're going to use the line of stitching. This side, you're going to use the raw edge. And just, these are ish measurements, right? This is nothing. If you're one of those people that, and I get it because I am too, I'm a measurer. But I just kind of eyeball these two here. Just kind of get it nice and centered. All right, so now I'm going to take this side of the pincushion and fold it over so that the raw edges meet. And I will turn this so that you can see it and just kind of finger press that a little bit. So now my hinge section is encased here. So it's right there. So I'm going to take a couple pins and just kind of give it a quick little pin. Now, just so you know what's coming up, we are not going to stitch this opening here. We're not going to stitch that closed. You're only going to stitch down the right side and the bottom. So you're going to stitch down, pivot, and finish off right there. So I'm just going to do a couple quick little pins so this doesn't shift on me. Again, you could use clips if you like, Nothing fancy, nothing hard. You don't even have to use pins or clips at all if you don't want to. So let me go ahead and give a little back stitch because that's going to get some wear. So you want to make sure that that's nice and strong. And I will pull the pins just so nobody cringes. Just quick little stitch right here. And again, I'm going to let that raw edge come just above my little metal piece there on my presser foot. Just keep on stitching. Quick little back stitch, and that's it. And again, don't have to cut my threads. Why? Because this is all going to be embedded. So there we go. So I've stitched down the right side and the bottom. Now watch this. This is so cool. So I'm going to go inside here, and I'm going to grab my little hinge piece, and I'm going to pull it out and pull this whole thing right side out. And again, you use your point turner, and you'll go in there, and you're going to poke out those corners, just like we did. Put them right in there, poke out those corners, give this a press, and once you're done, you're going to have a section like this. So there's your hint. See, do you see what I said? Now I'm going to open this up real quick for you, just so you can see right in here. Remember I said that it doesn't matter if your points aren't pointy, because hopefully you can see that. Bring it up a little bit more. But your point is embedded in the seam. So it doesn't, there we go. It doesn't matter if it's pointy or not. Just get it close, because that's going to be embedded by about 1/4 of an inch in your seam. So that's why I say this is very forgiving. So if you're not overly confident as a sewer, this is a great project for you. Okay, so there's that. Now we're going to set that section aside, and we're going to start working on the bag section. So
hey, Jerry, we have a couple questions for you. First off, you're making this so easy, but what is that red line on your sewing machine?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, I see a few people asking, so you'll just have to wait.
I explain everything. Don't worry. Fear not. Okay, so now I'm going to take my lining section, and again, I'm sorry, this is white on white, but this is 9 by 16. So remember, your outer and your inner bag will eventually be the same size. Now, by eventually, like I said, if you're going to do embroidery, you're going to make your outer bag section a little bigger to allow for that shrinkage, and then you're going to cut it to 9 by 16. Now, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to fold in 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to give this a quick 1/4 inch seam down the right side. And if you notice, I'm just giving this just a very, very gentle little tug. Gentle is the key word here. I don't want to stretch this out of shape, but I'm just going to sew my 1/4 inch all the way down. I'm not even pinning. It's a thin little 3/8 of an inch. It's pretty thin, so it'll be hard to get a pin in there. And there's that. Now, again, a lot of these steps, as you make these, you'll see a lot of these steps are the same. So this is exactly what you did on the pin cushion section. So you're just folding down 3/8. That's why I say the measurements aren't that difficult, because it's all the same on each piece. So folding down 3/8 of an inch, and you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from that finished section. Now, what you're going to do is you are going to put this right sides together. You're going to fold it just like you did the pin cushion. Fold it, and you're going to give this a quick pin. And again, that's why I say this is so quick, because you can put these together in no time, because again, this is exactly what you did with the pin cushion or the pin cushion section. So you're going to sew down the right, pivot, come down the bottom. So down the right, pivot, come down the bottom. So that's what we're going to do. I mean, I couldn't have made this any easier. I tried to make this fun and simple, because it should be fun and simple, right? Otherwise, you're not going to have fun with it. You're just going to go, ugh. And I've had patterns like that. I admit, over the years, you come across a pattern where you're just like, ugh, this is complicated. Or these instructions are too good. I'm thankful that we have them, but sometimes it can get to be a little tough, and I get it. All right, so again, just quick stitch down the bottom. And there we go. Now, this gets, you really may want to watch this. This seems a little odd. It's probably not something that you've ever done before, but just trust the process, follow what I'm saying, and you're going to get it. Okay, so you've got this little section, right? So I'm going to go inside now, And I'm going to place my hand in there and just give this a quick turn so that my pointy sections are up at the top. And my seam, again, these are ish measurements. If you want to measure this, you can. But if you want to get your seam right in the middle of the bag section here, just so it's laying right in the middle of your bag section. So there's the bag and the round. So I've just flattened it so that my seam is kind of right in the middle. Now with this pointy section, you're going to have to fuss with this a little bit because you've got this bag set. You're going, how am I going to sew this? This is the most bizarre thing. But watch this. All I'm doing is I'm playing with it and I'm rolling that fabric out so that I'm creating a point here. And you're creating a triangle, right? And you want to make sure that where this triangle kind of folds here is the same on both sides. So you don't want this line like I have it. This line is way up here. This line is really short. You just want to fuss with it so that this is equal on both sides. And that's about right there. Okay, so now it looks like a triangle like the top. I'm going to hold this carefully and I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. So I'm going to start rolling this fabric out. Make sure that these 2 points are the same distance, and I'm pretty close here, so I'm okay. Again, this is, if you don't get this perfect, it's fine. It's absolutely forgivable. So now I have the same section on front and top. Now if I open this top triangle up, what you should see is a square. So that's kind of a little marker for you. If you see a square here, you're right on the money. Now you just have to do a quick little marking. So what I have, and here's what I'm going to explain what that red tape is. The red tape is just ruler tape. This is, if you ask long armers or like sit-down quilters like I am, we use this all the time. This is great. You can find this, oh gosh, this is probably what, let me grab my little tool here. This is about 2/8 of an inch wide.
Hey Jerry, is that what
Yes,
we
ma'am.
use? Is that what we use for draping? Like draping
Yeah.
on dress forms?
Yep, draping tape. Yep.
All
Works
right.
great. It doesn't have to be ruler tape. It could be, just whatever, like 2/8 of an inch. How many millimeters is that? Angela, math. How many? What is that? I don't know. One,
Oh,
two,
no, I'm not. I love
7/8
math, but
maybe?
sorry.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6/8, 5/8, 6/8, 5. We'll say 5/8. It's about 5/8, 5 millimeters wide. So nothing major. It's just a simple little ruler tape. And what I've done is that's what this is. So you're asking about that red line. That's what this is. And this is at the 1 inch line, but that comes a little bit later in the project. I'll explain that to you. But I have used it on my ruler as a mark. This is a great idea and a great tip if you are doing multiples of something. Because, as you get going, sometimes you get tired, your eyes get tired, and you start going, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 6.5, right? And you have to sit there and count every time. Well, if you put some of this ruler tape on there at the line that you need, you don't even have to think about it. So I need a 6.5 inch measurement. So I put my tape at the 6.5 inch line, and I'm going to put that line right on the finished edge of my bag. So not the stitching, the finished edge. So I'm going to lay that down and turn this. And if you notice, now I can draw a line here, and my triangles are sort of encased in there. So I'm going to grab, I'm using a heat erasable marker or heat erasable pen. I'm just drawing a quick line. You could use, a regular pencil. This is going to be inside your seam, so you're not going to see it. So I'm just using, I just like it because it leaves a nice dark line. So this line is 6.5 inches down. Let me pull this up so you can see a little better. 6.5 inches down from the finished edge. Now I'm going to hold this carefully and flip it because I need to do the same on the other side. It doesn't matter which side you do first. It's just you need to make that 6.5 inch line. And then again, just make sure that triangle is encased in your ruler there, and just draw a line. That's it. You're just drawing a line. Simple as that. Now, here's the key, and I want to say this a couple times. You are not going to stitch this together, okay? You have an under triangle here, and you have a top triangle. You need to treat these as 2 separate units, okay? I am not stitching this all together. So what I'm going to do is very carefully reach in. Remember, there's that little square. I'm going to fold this triangle piece underneath. and out of the way, because I'm just working with this top triangle section. Now, all I'm going to do is stitch right on that line. So let's do that. Do a quick little back stitch.
Hey, Jerry.
Yes.
Brother fans are totally on top of it. I think there's about 15 posts that say a quarter of an inch, a quarter of an inch.
Absolutely. Now, if you have a Brother machine that has a laser line or a projected guideline, this would be a great opportunity to use that. So if you have that, again, I'm not going to worry about these threads because they're going to be encased inside the bag. So isn't that awesome? You don't have to take the time to trim all that stuff. Okay, so again, I have a triangle section here that I still need to work with, but I've just stitched on that top section here. Now you're going to trim that about a quarter of an inch away. And again, this is just an eyeball. You don't have to measure. If you want to, you most certainly can, but it's just an eyeball. So there, I'm done with that. I'm going to fold this over and flip it over so that I'm now working with this triangle section. And double check, make sure that there's nothing underneath to get caught. I'm just working with the top triangle section, and you do the exact same thing. Now, again, what makes this project so simple and easy is the outer bag section is constructed in exactly the same way. There's nothing you do different except you're going to turn the outer bag inside out, and I'm going to show you that. So again, there's my line. Just do a quick trim. And you're going, this is the most bizarre looking thing I've ever seen. But now watch this. Once you're done, you can kind of see where I'm going here. I'm going to put my hand in and look at that. There's my bag.
Wow.
So there's the bottom.
Perfect.
Pretty cool, huh? So let me see if I can get you in there. So there it is. There's my liner. Now you're going to leave it as is. You're not going to turn this inside out. Now you're going to work with your top section, or your outer bag, I should say. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to turn in 3/8 of an inch, give it a press, and then run a quarter of an inch seam right down that finished edge. So it sort of keeps that nice finished edge all encased in your seam there. So just running a quick little quarter of an inch down the whole thing. Again, I'm using a black thread so that you can see it, but you'll probably want to use a matching color. Just makes it nicer in case you're not quite as you're not sewing as accurately. So again, there's just a nice simple little line. Now again, turn this to the right side. Exactly the same construction method. Fold the left side over the right sides together. I'm going to throw a quick little pin in there. This is exactly the same thing. Now, if you notice here, maybe this is a little off. It doesn't matter. I've got probably 1/8 of an inch of fabric showing. Doesn't matter at all. This is very forgiving. I'm not going to worry about that. You know, I was so obsessed as a quilter when I first started with perfection. Perfection will paralyze you. And I have learned a phrase that I say often now is sometimes good enough is good enough. Finished is better than perfect. So
I like that. Good enough is good enough.
Sometimes
and
good
you're
enough
right.
Is good enough. It can paralyze you. You've given yourself a glass ceiling and you won't progress. So I've learned to overcome that. Take my pin out here. You're not going to believe how almost done we are. The longest part of this project is me talking through it. That's the hardest part. Okay, so there we go. Same thing, right? Now what do we have to do? Same thing we did with the inner bag section. We have to stick our hand in, just kind of push that out just a little bit. And I'm going to find I'm going to lay these two sections together. These are my finished edges here. And I'm going to find the center. This is just an ish thing. I'm just eyeballing. I stiffen this with some starch so it's not playing well with others right now. So there we go. And I'm just going to kind of just roughly find the center. There we go. And again, you have these triangle sections. You just want to push in on this, and that will cause the upper one to fall down. That's simple. And see, there's my sections. Now again, I just want to fuss a little bit. I want to make sure this is a nice point at the top. So I'm just rolling that fabric with my fingers. Okay, that actually turned out pretty well. Again, double check your sides. Make sure that it's the same length. If you want to measure, you can, but I'm just eyeballing. Now gently flip that over, check your other side. Wow, I'm almost right on the money on this one. Time to buy a lottery ticket. So there we go. Now what do I need to do? I need to mark, right? I'm going to mark that line. So you can see a lot of these steps are the same. The measurements are the same. If you wanted to make a bunch of these, you can get these done so quickly. These also make a really great charity gift or charity thing. If you are trying to donate something to your guild, they're asking for donations. This is so great because it's useful. Any quilter or sewer would love this. It's so fast and easy to do. You can do these, and I've gotten it down to like half an hour to make one of these, and that's filling the pin cushion and everything. Because once you get rolling, these go really fast, like really fast.
This is just a really easy project. This would really make good
simple.
gifts too if you plan ahead. Wonderful gift.
Absolutely. Or even if you, like I said, I would say maybe we're on for an hour and I'm almost done. And again, the longest part has been me explaining everything. So maybe half an hour, 45 minutes at most. So if you have a friend who's coming over in an hour, even a holiday I know the H word is a bad word sometimes, but the holidays are coming, folks. And sometimes you just get overwhelmed with things and you just forget that your friend is coming over in an hour and she's bringing a gift and you're like, oh no, I forgot to make something. Go grab some fat quarters and cut them out. Again, the cutting dimensions are so quick and easy. This goes together so fast that you can have something done in less than an hour. So, and still have time to make coffee and throw out your little pastries or whatever you're gonna do. So now, same thing. I'm going to take my remember, we are treating these as two separate units. Do not sew these together. You're going to take this triangle and fold it under so that I'm working with just the top triangle. And I'm going to stitch right on that line. Now I'm doing a little back stitching. You don't have to, but I do it's a habit of mine that I developed. I back stitch all the time. I back stitch on my quilt stuff. It's just something that I do. So, there's no right or wrong. Now I'm just going to give that a quick trim. Flip this over because I don't want to stitch through that. Pop this under triangle out. And I'm going to stitch through that. Simple, easy. You even have a line to follow, so there's no excuses. There we go. And again, just give that a quick trim, just an ish measurement. Once you're done, you're going to have these little triangle pieces. If you wanted to use this as a cap for your elf on the shelf, you could do that as well. There you go. So you'll probably come up with really creative ways to use that.
Sure, you didn't start that.
I know. So there's your sections. Now you got your two sections. Now, the difference is if this were the lining section, I would leave it as is. But since this is the outer bag portion, I'm going to flip this right side out. Why? Because this is the outer section. You want to see the pretty fabric. So again, just kind of use your fingers. You don't need a point turner for this because it kind of does it automatically. But there's your little bag. I sort of like finger crease the edges here. Real simple. Nothing complicated. You don't even have to press it. But there's my other bag section. Pretty cool, huh? How simple was that? Now again, you make a bunch of these and this will go so fast. I can't even tell you how fast this goes together. All right, so now it is time to start assembling. So the first thing that I'm going to need to gather all the sections that I've just created. And I'm done. I'm kind of done stitching the actual sections. Now I need to put them all together. So that's what we're going to do. So now what I want to do is I'm going to grab the hinge section that I created. I'm going to bring back our old friend, the pin cushion and the hinge section. And what I'm going to do is I need to pin this hinge into the bag. Now remember I said, even if your points here aren't pointy, they probably will automatically anyway because you have a finished edge and a sewn edge. So that's going to create a really nice point anyway. But even if it's not, don't worry about it because this is going to get encased in the seam. So that's why I say very forgiving, very simple. So now I'm going to take my outer bag section and I'm going to put the hinge right inside, and I'm going to eyeball this so that my hinge is equidistant from either side from that seam. Remember, we created the seam. So we want the seam on the bottom. Remember, like we did on creating the bag, we're flipping it over so the seam is on the bottom, and I'm going to scoot that hinge section up so that it sits right in the center, again, equidistant on either side from that seam. So I'm going to grab my little guide here, my sewing gauge, and I'm going to set it for 1/2 inch because I want, and I'll spin it this way so that you can see it. Hopefully you can see that. So I am going to place the finished edge 1/2 of the hinge section, and I'll use my little pointer so it's easier for you, my stiletto. So the hinge section, finished edge here, is going to be 1/4 inch away from this finished edge of the outer bag. So I'm just bringing it down 1/2 inch, right? So I'm just placing my gauge on the finished edge. I'm waiting till the finished edge here hits the little pointer, and there we go. So it's just 1/2 inch down. That's all it is. Nothing more complicated. And I'm going to put a pin there. You know what, folks? Again, this is so forgiving. Even if this is less than 1/4, the key to this whole thing is you're going to be stitching right here across on this previous line of stitching that you can probably see here. This is why I use contrasting thread. You're going to stitch all the way through here. So you want this finished edge of the hinge section lower than that. All right, so that's really all you're doing. That's why I measured on 1/2 inch, just to give myself a little bit of fudging room. But you just want to make sure that this finished edge of your hinge section is lower than the stitching. That's all there is to that. Now, again, if you even want to eyeball this, absolutely, you certainly can. There's no rules to this, and I'm going to eyeball the other side. Very, very forgiving here. So we're just going to say that that's 1/2 inch. Put a little pin there. I'm going to put one in the middle because I don't want anything to shift. Now, you're going to stitch over this previous line of stitching right through the hinge section and over to the other side. You're just stitching this hinge section. You're not going all the way around yet. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. So you can do it this way. You can just stitch from the top, or you can take, now if you notice, I've got my wide table. Look how huge this wide table is. This is the one that comes with the luminaire. It's huge. And you can take this off and expose the free arm. And you can kind of stitch in the round. So whichever makes you comfortable. I can't do that here because I'd have to move my camera and my lighting and all that. So I hope you understand. But yeah, I could easily, and I find it sometimes easier just to do it that way, to take off my table and expose my free arm. You could, but you don't have to. You could do it either way. That way, what you could do is you could flip this whole section upside down and just follow the previous line of stitching. Now, you can do that here too, but you do run the risk of maybe catching the other side of your bag underneath. But as long as you're careful and just go real slow. So I know this is going to be hard to see, but I'm going to do it this way. But I'll show you once I'm finished. Now I am going to backstitch here because remember, this is going to get a little bit of wear, a little bit of a tugging. I'm just following that previous line of stitching. However, since I'm doing this on the flatbed, I'm going to always reach underneath here and just kind of get that other bag the other side of the bag out of the way so that I'm sure I'm not stitching over it.
Jerry, I just have to share this because I'm cracking up. So Deborah says she could make a few adjustments to this and use it over maybe the couch or a chair when she's doing hair sewing. But she says, or my husband's remotes, and I'm laughing right out loud with you, Deborah. Win has more remotes than it's like one for the volume, one for the TV. That would be a perfect thing for that.
Absolutely. It's so frustrating. Why do we have to have 300,000 remotes? I don't get that. But
good idea, Deborah. Good idea.
This would be great for that. You can put the remotes in there, and you could do your hand stitching, and you can put your needles in there, and also have like double duty.
There you go.
All right, so we're finished. So I have stitched that down to the outer bag section. And all I've done, again, just follow the previous line of stitching. And again, if you're using thread that is not as contrasting as this, even if you fudge a little bit, you're just not going to see it at all. Again, that's the beauty of this. Perfect is not the thing here. If you want to trim those little threads, you can. But again, they're going to be encased inside the bag section, so it doesn't really matter if you do or you don't. All right.
So easy.
Yeah, simple. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your lining section and you're going to slide your lining section. I know it's a little hard to see. I apologize. But here's the seam. There's the seam I created from my lining. I'm going to slide it inside the bag so that it matches the seam here. Does that make sense? Okay. So just kind of put your hand in there, slide your liner inside your outer bag section. And I'm just going to check and make sure that my seams are matching on the inside. You can have your seam open here or to one side. It doesn't really matter. But you're just going to make sure you want your finished edges here to line up. So your outer bag is going to match the finished inner bag. And this you will probably want to pin. You'll probably take a little bit of time. I know it's hard to see, but I'll just do a pin real quick, and I'll show you when I'm finished. As you can see, we're almost done. What was that? Again, without me talking, this would have been, up to this point, probably about 20, 25 minutes, if that.
I could see making a couple of these at the same time. Just having a few pieces of fabric, have a little chain going on. You'd have these finished in no time.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, once you're sewing those, remember I told you to fold over and sew 1/4 inch? You could do a bunch of those. You could just chain piece those all the way through. You can make this really quick and fast. Now, a little tip here, I like to go to the other side, to the opposite side of the bag, and just kind of pull it all here so that I'm sure I've got enough fabric on each side, and then I'll stick a pin over there. And then I'll just start dividing this into quarters and eighths and putting a pin in there. So there's a pin. Now I'm going to go to the kind of the halfway point between the seam and that pin that I just placed. And just kind of, you might have to ease your way through here. So just put a little bit of ease in there if you need. It will be taken up by the stitching. Here's another little safety tip. When you're working with pins, don't put them in your mouth. You know how we always do that? We always put pins in our mouth. I had a friend who had a pin in her mouth, and her daughter, her little baby daughter, fell, and she gasped, and she sucked the pins in her throat.
Oh,
so
no.
yeah, you want to be careful that you're holding pins in your mouth, because if something happens, you might gasp, and that pin is going to go in your throat. So just be careful.
That would
not
be
trying to bring the room down here, but I'm just kind of a little safety. She was fine. But
Jerry,
it was
Jerry, I hate to say this, but I have a cat. Well, he's dead now, but when he was alive, when I used to alter clothes and do custom clothing, he would sit on the stairs, 2 stairs up, and he would hand me pins out of my pin cushion so I could pin the hems on customers. And the first time he did it, we were all like, ooh, but he'd pick up the pin and he'd drop it in my hand. That was pre-YouTube days, or I could have had
serious? You would have been viral in no time. You would have been the definition of viral.
The cat lady.
But not crazy. You're not a crazy lady. I know you enough to know that you're not crazy. Okay, so now I've got my pins. That would be cool. Now, if I could train Hercules to do that, that would be awesome. For those of you who don't know him, he's an English bulldog that we rescued almost a year ago, and he's a hoot. I'm telling you, he's a hoot. Okay, so again, now I've got my bag sections pinned together. And look at folks, we're almost done. I mean, it's really that fast. So I've got them pinned together. And what I need to do is stitch down. Now, here's where this little red piece of tape here is going to come in handy. Because I have measured, and my piece of tape is sitting 1 inch away from my needle. So I need a 1 inch seam. Now, in my case, I have that marking on my plate. But this is just an extra insurance measurement. Again, if you have a projected guideline or a laser, one of the Brother machines with a laser, you could shoot your laser over to the 1 inch as well. So either way, again, this might be easier to do I kind of like doing it better with the free arm. So I would pull my table off, use my free arm here, and kind of stitch in the round. But all you're going to do is you're going to follow that previous line of stitching. That's already there for you. So there's nothing to mark. You're just stitching right over that. Nope, I was wrong. Sorry. I got ahead of myself. You're stitching 1 inch down from that, okay? So it's 1 inch down from the finished edge. So I have got my tape here. I got ahead of myself. So I'm going to do my 1 inch first. Now I know you can't see this, but I'll show you when I'm done. And I'm just letting the finished edge of my bags. This is where I say it might be a little easier to sew in the round, but you can do this. You just kind of futzing with it, and you're making sure that that's an official sewing term, futz. You just want to make sure that this is, I want it to sound fancy, so I wanted to use a fancy sewing term. So you're just making sure that everything is nice and flat. You're not going to get any puckers. So I'm going an inch down. So all the way around. Make sure that your hinge section doesn't get caught up. This is always the fun part when you're watching somebody just stitch, right? And it's like, okay, 1 inch away from that finished edge. Almost done here. Okay, that's it. All right, again, if you're using a matching, I'm just taking my pins out. If you're using a matching thread, you won't even hardly see it. Take all my pins out, make sure all the pins are out. You do not want to have blood on your project. That's always not good. Unless you want to tell somebody there was so much blood, sweat, and tears that went into this project, I can't even tell you. Okay, so I've just stitched 1 inch down. You can see there's 2 lines of stitching there. Just 1 inch down. Now this one, you're going to see it, so you may want to clip your threads here. But that's really all the clipping that you need to do. And now I need to create a casing for what? For boning. At this point, I need to put in either some boning or something. If you notice, I'll bring my bag over, my original one. Do you see how this is open? There's a piece in there that's keeping that open. Now, what is it that I'm using? Now, I'm going to give you some tips. And again, this is in your instructions, in your supply list. You can use boning. Those of you who do a lot of garments, you may have some boning sitting around. If you don't, you can use a 2-liter soda bottle. And you can cut a strip in the round about a half an inch by 18 inches. So you could use your soda bottles. What I use, you're going to laugh. What I use, this is strapping that comes from what? A shipping box. You know how we get those boxes shipped to us that have the strapping on it? Don't throw that away. This is perfect for that. You could ask a friend if they have a box that's been shipped that has this strapping on it. We've all seen this. The strapping on it, you can use that. It's already kind of rounded for you, so you want to work with the round. And so you're going to insert this eventually, but what you need to do is make a casing first. So I'm going to start about an inch away from my, I'm going to leave about a 2-inch opening here, but I'm going to now stitch on the previous line of stitching all the way around, leaving an opening. Make sure you leave an opening. Otherwise, you're going to have a bag that's just going to collapse on you. You won't be able to close it. So I'm just going to go over my previous line of stitching here. Oops. Thread my needle again. For those of you who may not have an automatic needle threader, oh my gosh, look at that. Automatic. Okay. And I'm right back to where I was. So I'm just going over that previous line of stitching. Again, I am leaving an opening. I know you can't see this, but I'll show you when I'm done. And again, if you're like I keep saying how forgiving this is, if you're not exactly on that line, if you're using a matching thread to your bag pieces, you won't even see it. It doesn't even matter if you're just a little bit off. You ain't going to see it. But just so nice and slow. I'm just trying to get through this, trying to be speedy to get through it. But you'll be more slow and accurate than I am right now. Just trying to show you the project.
Arnell, while you're sewing, Arnell just noticed how big that table extension you have on your machine. She's loving it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's not just for quilters, it's for garment sewers. I do couture sewing. I've done wedding gowns. I've done like the queen gowns for the Renaissance festivals. Lots of fabric, as you know, Angela. There could be a lot of fabric in there.
Mm-hmm.
It gets bulky. When you have a table like this to support all of that weight, it's really nice. Plus, the throat space on the luminaire is 12 inches, 12.1 inches. So you've got a lot of space here to work with. So, okay, so now I've just gone over the previous line of stitching, and if you notice, I've got a little opening here. That's going to be my casing. So I'm going to take my piece of strapping, and I'm just going to start feeding it. I'll go this way so my big Godzilla hands won't be in the way. And you're just going to feed it through. So I'm going to just kind of feed that through.
Shirley, you gotta love spell check. Everybody always, they're trying to write something and it comes out way off, but we know, Shirley, you know how to spell.
The thing is, we've all done that. We've all made, autocorrect and spell check errors, and we all understand. So I am working with the natural curve that's in that strapping, and so that's going to create, it's going to make it in the round. So I'm just feeding this through. That's all I'm doing. I'm just kind of grabbing the end, pushing it, and then taking up the slack. And I'm just kind of going all the way around here. And what's nice is, the seaming isn't really in the way. So you could just feed this straight right on through. Real simple. So eventually you're going to make it to the other side, and you're just going to tuck that end in. That's left right here, this little end. You're just going to tuck that in. Once you get to the front, you're going to tuck that right in there, push it down to the bottom so that you're not stitching over this, and you're just going to stitch, and you're going to close that. Now see how this automatically creates that opening, and it doesn't crush. Isn't that nice? That's just from
brilliant.
Who thought strapping from those boxes that we've all had and all thrown away would come in so handy?
And I just threw away a ton. I see Josie wrote, she just threw away a ton too. I never even thought about that.
Of course, the funny thing is you could go behind like some of your big box stores they throw this stuff away like crazy, and you could grab some. But of course, then you run the risk of people going, "Oh, look at that poor person. They're going through the boxes."
Well, the other thing, today's the last day for 0% financing. When you get your Brother machine, if it has straps on it, there you go. You get a free project with it.
Yep, absolutely. So look at that. There it is. Now you could trim this all up and make it nice and neat. But again, that's it. So, now the only thing you need to do is fill it with your English walnuts. And what I like to do is, so you've got the opening here for your pin cushion. And so what I like to do is just very quickly just kind of do a little back stitch and leave about, an inch or so. I'm going to cut that. Leave about an inch opening. Again, that's not a firm, fast measurement. That's an ish measurement. I'm not quite accurate here, but that's okay. You get the idea. So I'm going to leave just a little opening here. Now, remember I said you needed some paper and tape. That's what this is for. So this is my printer tape that I created, and I just kind of turned it into a cone. And so now what I'll do, I won't do this, I'll just explain it to you. I'll put the cone inside the pin cushion, and I'm going to start filling. Now, what am I filling with? I am using English walnuts. And you're thinking, what? He goes, I can see people now going, are you serious? I'm going to have to crush my own English walnuts? No, you're not going to have to do that. This is very finely crushed. Let me explain to you where I got this. You're going to laugh. I found this at a pet store. It was a big box pet store. It's in the lizard section. This is what they use for lizard bedding. So those of you who may have a lizard, you're going to be like, oh, I've got 55-gallon drum of that behind my house. But those of you who don't, I bought the smallest bag they had was 5 quarts, which is large for very, very little money. If you use this is bedding from a pet store, from the reptile section. So this is what they use. It looks like sand, doesn't it? So that's
what I was thinking. I was looking. I'm like, that looks like sand.
It does. It makes sense, right? So you're just going to take and you're going to put it in your cone, and you're going to fill your pin cushion that way. Now, I won't do it just because you get the idea. But then to close that, so your bag is going to be pretty full, right? Now, to close that, I like to pop off my presser foot. Now, here, I'm going to show you what I was talking about earlier. As you can see on my foot, I've got that little metal band here. Now, if you let the raw edge of your fabric ride right up to that band, maybe just a little bit ahead of it, that will give you your 1/4 inch mark so you can pivot. So that's what I was talking about earlier. So I have my zipper foot here, just plain old zipper foot that came with my machine. I'm going to put it on the right side. And the most important thing is you have to make sure that you move your needle, because otherwise you're going to slam your needle right into the zipper foot, and that will make you cry. And crying is not allowed. There's no crying in sewing. So you're just going to move it over. I go to about plus 2.0 millimeters, about 2 millimeters. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to ride right along the edge. And I won't do it, but I'll just kind of show you here. Yeah, I guess I can. And you're going to stitch that closed. And what that does is it gets all those walnuts out of the way.
So hey, quick question. Kelly wants to know, is it the nuts or the shells that's in that little package there?
It's the walnuts themselves. They're crushed English walnuts.
So have you checked the price of those in the grocery store? Is this what I should start adding to my salads? Maybe not.
Well, I don't think that kind of roughage is what people are talking about. So I think you're going to find that in the salad section at Whole Foods. But
I'm so kidding. Don't do that at home, by the way. I'm super kidding.
So once you're done, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have your bag filled with, and that's it, folks. It's as simple as that. Again, look how fast you could get that done. Everything is finished. It looks great. There's your liner. Again, this is your project, your rules. If you want it all matching fabric, by all means. If you want to use embroidery or not, it's your business. Maybe you have somebody that their sewing room has a certain coloration to it or a colorway. You can get that. Again, grab your scraps, grab your fat quarters. This project is absolutely perfect for that.
This is such a great project. I'm watching all the comments. Everyone's talking. Glenda said she's going to make hers for a remote. And I'm just going to have to warn you, Wynn is going to have a heart attack. I always pick up peanuts for my squirrels. I've got bird seed. And now I'm going to be coming home with lizard food. And he's going to be like, what are you doing?
What? Do we have pets we don't know about? Wait a minute.
He's always worried I'm going to add more to the list.
To the menagerie.
Yeah. Everyone's saying awesome project, so well detailed. Oh, and by the way, I apologize. I fixed the links. I didn't have them correct. So let me just show you where you find them real quick so you can find all this. It's right. Hold on.
And really quick, Joanna's saying that she's late as usual. Joanna, fear not. As Angela said, this is going to be recorded, and all of the instructions and the supply list is going to be available for you. So
it's right here.
Late, it's fine.
It's already up for you, and here you can see, you click here, you can watch the video, and here's all Jerry's instructions. That was so awesome that you did that, and then you can also just click on each one of those Jerry Granata supply list and Jerry Granata DIY instructions. Click on that, and you will be able to download those if you want to, and you can watch the video right there. Jerry, that was so awesome to do that, because when you're working on a project, and I noticed this the last few, everybody's writing it down, but then they're like, wait, I missed something. But the good news is you can always go back and watch these. That's the best part.
Right. So you got three things. You have the supply list, you have the instructions, and you have the video that's recorded. So you have it all there for you. So it makes it easy. And again, I don't really call them instructions. I call them guidelines, because I'm just doing it my way. If you find a faster way to do this, absolutely, please. There's no rules. I'm a rule breaker, so I get it. I'm your spirit animal. I'm your people. So
go for it. Everybody's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. I think Carol had a question a while back. Someone was asking about vinyl. Could you put vinyl in that lining, or use vinyl for that lining?
Oh yeah. They've got the fusible lining. Yeah, absolutely. Use the fusible vinyl. Just be careful, with your iron. Ask me how I know.
Kelly said you could turn it into a little cooler bag.
Yeah. Absolutely, sure you could. You can put your little snacks in there put your little M&Ms in there as well. It'd be a little snack bag. Yeah, just don't get your needles in your snacks.
No, that would be bad. Hey,
somebody had a suggestion if you could use rice. Absolutely, you could use rice. Sure, you could do that. I like the walnuts because they kind of act like, remember those little strawberry things? And you would put I know it's emery, but you'd put your needles in there and your pins in there, and it would sharpen it. The English walnuts do the same thing. They will sharpen keep things sharp. So
That's a good idea. I'll put this website down below. Brother Sews is down there. If you do this project, be sure to tag them. Also, they love to see what you're working on. And I also put my website, which Jerry gave me the instructions to put on. So just click on angelawolf.com, click on blog, and it's right there. I also put a link into the comments. That was me doing that, not officially Brother, but that's the only way I can comment to everyone. Hey, is this a reversible, Kathy said?
That's a great, yeah, absolutely. Sure, you can flip that inside out. Flip it right inside out. It's an easy way, flip it right inside out. It's an easy way to dump all of that and then just put it right back to where it was. So again, the wonderful thing about using that strapping or boning, or even, like I said, the 2-liter bottle, is it keeps this opening for you. So it just pops it right back to where it was.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So do you have any more questions? I know there's always a delay, so I'll just double check that we're not missing anything. Everyone said, can't wait to try this. Oh, Julie loves the quilt behind you. I love both quilts. That's a new quilt behind you there, Jerry.
It is, yeah. This one is, with things that's been going on, I kind of broke out my USA quilt. That's a quilt that I did for a show that I did, a quilting show, and they wanted to bring me on to do some unusual fabrics. And I use unusual fabrics in a very traditional way, as you could see in that quilt. I mean, there's Ohio stars, and there's, very traditional applique and piecing. However, to represent the 13 original colonies, I used 13 unusual fabrics, from denim to satin to brocade. There's velvet in there, and there's even a sweater I found from the thrift shop. I cut up into pieces and used that as well.
Oh my gosh, really?
So, yeah. Yep. So again, don't be afraid to go down these aisles that you've not been down before. You might find something very, very cool.
Absolutely gorgeous. Everybody's saying, thank you. Jerry, this was an awesome project. I cannot wait to see. And I put the Brother Instagram above. Be sure to tag them because they always share what you're working on. And this is a great project. I actually think this is the one project that started as something and is going to become so much more. Someone just said that would be a great thing to add over a walker. You're going to have like magazine holders, make it a little bigger.
Now, if you want to take the hinge section and leave off the pin cushion, you could use that as a Velcro section. And yes, you could put that over the handles of something and have it as a holder and Velcro the hinge section together. So yeah, that's a great. See, you're already thinking, folks. You're already got it going.
Jerry, this is awesome. Thank you so much, brother. Sewing and Crafting family, thank you so much for watching as well. We so appreciate it. And Jerry, I cannot hardly wait to see what we're working on next. But I will see you. Don't forget Houston Quilt Fest. If you want to meet Jerry in person.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you very much, Angela, for hosting this and for having me. It's been a pleasure as usual. It's always so much fun working with you.
Except Jerry, I tell you, I'm so disappointed. Your dog did not snore once during the live show, and right before we started, I heard him, and he's been silent the whole time.
I've been working with him. Poor little Hercules. Any of you that have a brachycephalic dog, like a boxer or pug, you'll know they're snorers. So I've had to leave him outside the room. Otherwise, that's all you're going to hear. You're going to think there's rumbling going on, but it's him snoring.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I was dying laughing right before we started. So he was quiet the whole time. Tell him, just give one little snore. We love it. Arnell even said, where's the dog? Where's Hercules?
Yeah, just a quick little thing. He's outside. I put his bedding outside the door, and he's actually good. He sleeps in his bed. So when I go out there now after this, I'll go out and he'll be snoring in his bed.
Jerry, awesome. Thank you all for watching. Can hardly wait to have you back, and can't wait to see your projects. And thank you for the great instructions for them to print off, Jerry. That was awesome.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Upsize your creativity with the all-new, all-smart Innovus NQ1700E, only from your friends at Brother. Demo one at your Brother dealer today.